My name is Paige. I came into care when I was 2 for parental abandonment, and this is my story. Childhood memory is sitting in a courtroom while the courts made the determination to terminate my mother's parental rights. I came into foster care when I was 2 years old, and from what I understand, my mother left me in a house for 2 weeks by myself, and the police had came to serve a search warrant on her in our house, and they didn't find her, they found me. I was in a crib with a bag of cat food, and I weighed 12 pounds. I have 6 siblings. I'm the youngest out of the 7 of us. I have minimal contact with all of my siblings but one. I have one brother that I maintain regular contact with, and his name is Greg. He lives in Texas. And other than that, I've made contact with my siblings, but there is no relationship or any interest in having a relationship. I do have a desire to contact my bio parents. I have contacted my mother, Kay. Minimal contact. She's still active in her addiction, and there is really no desire for a relationship with her. The first placement was with a friend of the family named Ethel, that we grew up calling her grandma, and that placement lasted for 9 years, from the age of 2 to 11 years old. During that placement, I experienced significant, horrendous abuse. I was locked in dog cages, I was locked in closets, I was tied to beds and beaten, and I was starved during those 9 years. So by the age of 11, I had finally had enough. I couldn't take anymore. The schools didn't believe me. Nobody would believe me whenever I would speak about what was going on. So finally I had had enough, and I set her house on fire in an attempt to bring attention to my situation. The things that stood out that was exceptional or good during that placement was I had met a man when I was, I believe, 4 years old while I was in kindergarten. His name was Earl, and I remember going to kindergarten, and I heard all the other kids in my classroom talking about their daddy and things that they do with their daddy. And so I went home and I talked to him, and I said, hey, all the other kids in my classroom have a daddy and I don't. Can I call you daddy? And that was just like a love at first sight from then on until he died when I was 17. He was my daddy, and he was my knight in shining armor, my hero, my protector, my everything. Some of the things that I experienced that led me to set their house on fire was she would tie me to the bed in our bedroom, and she would duct tape my mouth shut, and she would then find an extension cord or a broomstick, whatever she could find, and beat me with it for hours on end. I was duct taped to a chair when I was 7, and I was shot at with nail guns. I have a scar on my upper abdomen from where one of the nails hit me. And with that, and amongst many other things, is what, in multiple attempts to get help and not being believed. The house was set on fire. I was taken from the kinship placement I was in due to her inability to care for me properly, and I was immediately placed into an adoptive placement. But by that time, at 11, after experiencing such horrendous abuse, I didn't know how to be a part of a family. And I didn't know what love was, or I didn't know how to love, I didn't know how to be loved. So that resulted in 3 failed attempts of adoption before I was placed into therapeutic foster care, which is for the children who have significant behavioral needs. I had an adoptive family when I was 12 that really did love me, and they tried everything they could to give me what I needed, what I wanted, but I was just so hardened that I was not able to love, and I was just angry, and I lashed out, and I fought, and I said horrible things and acted in horrible ways that, they eventually just couldn't take it anymore. So that was that family when I was 12. That was John and Debbie. And then Brad and Sabra when I was 17. They loved me with everything they had, or they tried, and I just wouldn't take it. I think by that time I'd been through so much that I was just unable to give love, show love, receive love, and I didn't know what the intentions of anybody that I was around was. I do still maintain contact with both of those families. Brad and Sabra is more a part of my life than John and Debbie. I have made contact with them and talked to them since that, and I apologized, they apologized, and we were able to part ways on good terms. Brad and Sabra are still in my life. They are actually my daughter's Mima and Pawpaw, and they watch her almost every other weekend, and they love her to death. And so my relationships are still improving with them, because I said a lot of hurtful things and did a lot of hurtful things when I was 17. Learning to build healthy relationships is through a lot of counseling. I have a lady in my life who has really taken me under her wing. Her name is Deanne. She took me under her wing when I was 19. She has been my mom. She's taught me how to love, how to be loved, how to carry myself as a woman, how to be a mother, how to be a friend, and just how to be a family member. And so with the help of healthy people in my life, and through CR, Celebrate Recovery in church that I'm a part of, it has really began to transform my life in a way where I'm not looking at myself as a victim. I'm looking at myself as somebody who went through some rough stuff as a child, and it's made me who I am today. It's given me the heart and the compassion I have for other foster children, or for children in general. I did struggle with substance abuse. My drug of choice was crack cocaine. I started using when I was 17 after my dad died. It completely flipped my world upside down when my dad passed away. So I began using cocaine at that age. I battled a 12-year crack cocaine addiction. And 5 years ago, during the midst of my crack cocaine addiction, I was out using, and I got in a car with somebody that I thought was a friend, and ended up being a foe. And I was raped and robbed and kidnapped and held for 6 hours and beaten. And that was my reality check. That's what woke me up from my addiction. Is my daughter, my 3 kids almost lost their mother because of my addiction. I got sober after I was raped and I got out of the hospital from that whole incident, I was put into rehab, or I made the choice to go into rehab. The hospital gave me the option to go to detox and go into rehab, and I took the opportunity. So during that time is when I found Celebrate Recovery, and I found the lady that I have in my life I call my mom. That's when I met her, and I began my journey through Celebrate Recovery in church, and I gave my life to God, and I was baptized, and I began working in a ministry and giving back to others, and began using my situations in order to help others and lift them up and help pull them out of their addiction. Experience aging out of foster care was very scary, because when I came out of foster care, because I spent so much time in group homes and shelters and hospitals, I did not learn the basic life skills I needed in order to be a functioning member of society. So I aged out not knowing anything. I was probably 10 to 12 years behind on knowing what I should have known at that age, which is how to wash my clothes, how to fill out a job application, how to budget a checkbook, how to balance a checkbook, how to open a bank account. I didn't know how to do any of those basic tasks that an 18-year-old should know how to do. So it really hindered my beginning in life, because in my adult life, because I was so far behind. In residential facilities, the first one I went to was when I was 12. I went to a relations group home, and during that time I experienced severe amounts of emotional neglect, because due to the understaffing of the facility, there was 2 halls, one hall with 18 boys, another hall with 18 girls, ranging from age 6 to 18 on each side, and 2 staff members to cover all 18 kids. And the staff members were not educated properly on how to deal with children with therapeutic needs, and how to deal with children who have reactive attachment disorder or anything of that sort. The training was not proper for the people they had in there. It was not, I'm trying not to get my emotions too. I believe I came out of the group homes worse than what I was when I went in. I believe I came out more hardened. I believe I came out more scared of people in general, more scared of other kids, more antisocial than what I already was, and learned so many more negative behaviors while I was in there. But the difference was, now that I've learned them, now I've also learned how to get away with them. So that way I don't get in trouble for it. If I could fix one thing in the foster care system, it would be eliminating the overcrowding of the group homes. And not only that, it would be to take the children who are more therapeutic and have more therapeutic needs that are harder to place into a home. I would want them to be in a setting that's a home setting. So at that point, that's a more one-on-one, that you can work more one-on-one with them and teach them how to be a good family member. Some of the good things I got from the system was I learned what kind of parent I did not want to be. I got my passion that I have from the foster care system. I now have a very strong voice for behaviorally challenged children, because too many people are quick to judge children who are behaviorally challenged that it's a fault on the parents' part, when maybe it's usually not. And I got my mentor from the foster care system. She was my very first caseworker. Her name is Leslie. And I got her. She's my mentor. I would say that I know it's easier to close your heart off, because when your heart's closed off, you keep getting hurt. But when your heart's closed off, you also miss out on the love that people have to give you, and you miss out on so much more, so much of the beauty that is in your situation. And my encouragement would be to open your heart up and allow yourself to be loved. I am 32 years old. I'm newly married. I got married November 2nd of last year. I have a wonderful, amazing husband who is 100% supportive of my goals, my dreams, and I of his. I have 3 kids. One is 7, one is 10, and one is 4. And now I am able to be the best parent I always meant to be. I always wanted to be for them. My 7-year-old is the one that I have probably the biggest struggle with, because I made some choices that resulted in her being removed from my care. So trying to rebuild that relationship is teaching me a lot, and I parent her 100% different than the way I was parented. I'm soft-spoken with her. I look to listen to her. I look to connect versus correct. And I volunteer in a prison reintegration ministry called Inside Out Reentry Services, which is reconnecting people that are coming out of prison back into the community, reconnecting moms that are estranged from their children, getting them reconnected and getting their babies back home. I go to Celebrate Recovery on a weekly basis. I'm in a 12-step recovery on a weekly basis, which helps me maintain my sobriety and the relationships that I've built that are healthy for me now. And then my husband's absolutely phenomenal, and I'm so blessed to be where I'm at today. I choose not to look at myself as a victim to my past. I am a victor of my past.
Help support Foster TV. Go to fostertv.net and make a donation today. Foster TV's My Story is a HEDFRA production, only on Foster TV.